build my gallows and build them high. Makes a long time climbing before I die. I want the chance. Hello, everybody. Welcome to a bonus edition of Longbangers. I'm Matty.
I'm Colin.
And we are joined by author, former footballer, and all-round nice guy, DJ Pat Nevin. Pat, how are you doing?
I'm absolutely good, and it's good to be here, and nice to talk to you, Matty, and I certainly will call you Colin and not Carol.
Good shout. Who have I logged in as you?
I have logged in as
Carol to me.
He's not out his Saturday computer, haven't
Jesus.
you?
I don't normally use this one.
Great start, love it.
So, Pat, you're bang in the middle, I suppose, of a book launch at the moment. How is that going?
I could say it's hard work, but it's generally great fun. This is the second one in 2 years, and I had basically gave the whole of June to traveling around Britain doing interviews, but generally book festivals or just talks on the books, particularly the second book. So yeah, that was mental. Then I had a couple of weeks off there. But it's, but real life has come back on. The season's begun. I need to get back into my real job. He said, job, inverted commas, right? I get it. It's not a real job. So yeah, it's been interesting. It's been busy. It's been very different from the first book, which kind of went mental right away. But then in the first book, I was covering Chelsea and Everton, as opposed to now, Tranmere Rovers, Kilmarnock and Motherwell, which, it's a very interesting story, I believe. And people who've read both books seem to think, they always seem to say the same thing. Oh, I loved your first book, but the second one's better. And I'm thinking, I don't know if I should be offended by that. Like, I'm not sure how I feel about that.
Well, I suppose, is there a case there that they haven't had the experience of writing the first book, which is The Accidental Footballer? Did that set you up better to write the second one, do you think?
It's hard to know. I don't think the writing style's quite a wee bit different, because certainly the second part of this last one turns into a bit of a page-turning thriller, or so I am told. That's what I meant it to feel like, but certainly that's what it feels like near the end. But just different styles. I loved writing both of them. I just love writing. I've always written. So if anyone does pick this book up and listens to it or reads it and they don't like it, I can't blame anybody. It's me that wrote it. It wasn't ghosted. No blame can be given to you. I just have to take the hit on it. But so far, most people have liked both of them, and they have been different in their own way, even though they do follow on from each other.
And if you talk a wee bit about your career, so The Accidental Footballer, I think, is quite a good way to sum up how you sort of fell into football. I thought Reluctant Footballer also would have been accurate from the tone of the book. So how did you get started?
Yeah, no, I'd been playing as a kid. My dad trained me, just like everybody else, playing in the streets, playing around the back in the East End of Glasgow. But my dad was training me. He was into training myself and my other brothers and sisters, indeed. But I never thought I'd be. I mean, those days I was a Celtic supporter and used to go and watch Celtic as well. But never thought I'd be a footballer. I never really wanted to be a footballer as a job, and I really didn't. It never crossed my mind. And even when Celtic signed me as an S form, still didn't cross my mind. But eventually, after a period of time, I was 16. They let me go. Said it was too wee. And I thought, well, it's fine. I'll just go and watch them each week. And then weirdly, just by, and poignantly now, just by chance, I was playing with a boys' club, and we played against Rangers. No, didn't play against Rangers. Playing against Clyde Reserves. Rangers was in my mind there because there's a story about that. Played against Clyde Reserves, and their manager just spotted me and said, "Do you want to come play with us?" And I said, "Nah, I'm doing a degree, mate." And he went, "Well, we're part-time. You can do your degree and play. We'll pay you 30 quid. I says, "Where's your pen?" How many albums can I buy for 30 quid a week in those days, man? That's it. Like, so that was how it happened. And that man who I walked off and changed my life that day was Craig Brown. And of course, we've lost Craig very recently. Massive part of my life, and stayed until the very end. A great part of my life. And by the way, I'll jump back to the Celtic story and the Rangers story just for a second, if you don't mind.
Sure.
The reason why I was thinking the Rangers when I was playing for this boys' club, Gartcosh, is because I was playing for them before Clyde came in at Gartcosh, and the Rangers scout spotted me. In those days, I was a centre forward. I'd never played in the wing before I went down to Chelsea, really. And a centre forward or a 10, and the Rangers scout started walking over, and I'm going, "Oh, don't do that. Honestly, this is so embarrassing," because he hadn't asked the obvious question. In those days, Rangers, for those younger viewers, had never signed a Catholic. And obviously, and he walked over and he goes, "Oh, my name is," and gave me his name. And I went, "Yeah, my name's Patrick, Kevin, Francis, Michael, Nevin."
Just about time.
I mean, it's that moment, and the moment in Train Spotting where you're putting the number into the keypad. You have to understand these things about Central Scotland, particularly West Central Scotland. My mates were pissing themselves. This guy's making an arse of himself. But it was weird though. So it was an accident, and eventually got into it. But really didn't want to do it as a full-time profession. And so much so that I turned down Chelsea when they came in for me a year later. And I turned them down for an entire year. But I thought, after 2 years, the edited version is, I thought, I'll give it a wee go.
Why were you like that, Pat? Like, what was because that's like most boys' dream, right? And you're getting it handed to you, an opportunity, and you go, nah. Like, and then you had the luck, I suppose, that they kept chasing you.
Well, yeah, but I suppose the thing is, I loved playing football probably more than anybody else I knew, and certainly all the pro players. But I just did it for the love of it. I didn't do it to be famous. Didn't do it to make money. I did it because I loved doing it. And it's kind of weird, old-fashioned, almost Corinthian attitude I had. The other side of it was I was going to, my brothers and sisters, my older brothers and sisters had all gone on to higher education. And I thought that's normal. And it is indeed normal. So for my family, and also I'd made this terrible mistake. I was going to watch Celtic in those days every week. And in those days, they had players like Danny McGrain and Kenny Dalglish and David Hay and George Conley and E. Jinky and all that. And I thought, I'll never be as good as them. And I was right. So I'll never be as good as they. So why bother trying? I didn't realise that they were, for a period of time, the best team in Europe. Arguably, I was just going to watch them every week. I mean, I have to ride back to a couple of things to bring it back to Hibs for a second. In those days, I was at the 6-1 and the 6-3, the two cup finals. Where Celtic won them. I was at the other end, and it was extraordinary because even in those days, I had two teams. I had Celtic and I had Hibs. Hibs was my second team. And my first ever football strip I bought was a Hibs top, which is really weird for a Celtic supporting kid in the east end of Glasgow. My mates are going, "What? Could you not afford a Celtic strip?" No, that's my other team. And I got my mum to sew number 4 on the back because I loved Pat Stanton. And this for the east end of Glasgow, trust me, that's ultra weird, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I eventually got a Celtic strip a year or two later. The strip before that, I also got a Chelsea strip. Weirdly, and again, that's maybe even weirder than the Hibs strip because, Chelsea. Look at it's all blue, Celtic. It's not right. It's not right in the east end of Glasgow. So I had the kind of weird things going on at the time that I loved football, loved playing it, loved teams that played in an exciting way. And I remember that Hibs team. Brownlee, Blackley, Stanton. There's just a whole bunch of players all the way through that team were brilliant. The problem for them is Celtic were phenomenal at that time, weren't they? So it was a kind of weird time when I was growing up that I kind of thought, I love football, but I don't want to be one. Or never crossed my mind to be one. And I'll be honest with you, I was a footballer for 2 years and I still didn't really think I would be a footballer. And I'd won Player of the Year at the kind of division I was in with Clyde, and actually European Youth Player of the Year at the European Youth Championships, and I'm still saying, nah, probably got gigs. Like, weird life.
There must have been a point where you realised, like, look, I'm pretty good at this, and sort of like channeled it. And because going through your book, you're very dedicated to the training. You took it seriously, without taking it seriously. Almost that's kind of how it came across.
Hard thing to explain, isn't it?
Yeah.
That's why I wrote a book about it. Like, it's quite a lot. Now, and it's a dichotomy of being completely and utterly dedicated to the craft, wanting to be as good as you can, because it's more enjoyable when you're good at it. But on the other side, I didn't want to lose the love of it. And if you do something through the fear of getting there and you fail or something happens or you get injured, you're crushed. I didn't want that to happen. I wanted to keep doing it. And because I realised when I was particularly at Clyde and that hey, when I do this, as you know, if I can keep cool and calm about it, I'm actually better. I'm more relaxed about it. A classic analogy I give to people in the old days, like you run out in the old days and the players would run out with a ball under their arm, you know, and go run out with that big stiff run. And you're thinking, watch Ruud Hullet run out on your pitch. It's like, cool, hey, we're cool.
Yeah.
I've got this kind of thing. And I kind of felt, no, I've got this. I'm all right. I don't care who I'm playing against. So it was this weird thing of absolutely loving it, absolutely dedicated to it, always wanting to win. But hey, if it doesn't work, it doesn't work. And keeping that attitude. Now that attitude seems very different from what we are sold, which is usually you got to win, you got to want it, you got to this, you got to fight, and you got to do that, and nothing else matters. I think people have been sold a pup with that one. I don't. Yeah, I think negatively.
I agree. You've got to enjoy it. My daughter plays at the moment, and I say I enjoy it. But you can sense there's parents that put the pressure on, and it's them that are more invested, like almost like living your life through the kids sometimes, I think, as well. But it's all, I keep saying that, just enjoy, as long as you're enjoying it. And if you're not enjoying it, drop a level, enjoy it there.
When I do talks to kids or anyone, and adults as well, you've just taken the word. They say, what advice do you give? And I said, it's only one word. It's enjoy. That's it. If you enjoy it, you'll be better. Yeah, and if you're not enjoying it, do something else. That's my attitude towards it anyway. So that was the reason to answer that question of why it happened. But then ended up going down to Chelsea and then thought, I've no chance here. But as soon as I stand on a pitch, I think, yeah, I'll do that. And it's a weird, strange dichotomy of off the pitch, relax, on the pitch, well, I can do you. And it was a fantastic time down there. We were lucky. I got player of the year a couple of times at Chelsea. We had a right good bunch of players. My understudy for a few years was one Kevin McAllister.
Brilliant.
You consider our backup backline, right? Our backup backline. And we obviously Crunchy had him, right? Couldn't get games because I was playing most of the time. And we had Duncan Shearer, who obviously wanted to play Aberdeen in Scotland, couldn't get a game. Wee Billy Dodds couldn't get a sniff. And you know, all these loads of players that they couldn't get a sniff for us because the standard was pretty decent. We had myself, Kerry Dixon, David Speedy, scoring a lot of goals, and we were a pretty successful team for a good few years. So by that point, I'd kind of gone down to London and was absolutely loving it. And that, certainly in the first book, there's a lot of good fun about London. There's actually some football in that.
I'm reading it just now, actually. Yeah. I'm reading the first one just now. I was more amazed that you were doing 1,000 key purposes by the time you were 8-year-old, I think you said.
10,000.
10,000, Christ, I misread that.
No, people think that's an amazing thing. It's not. That's just a time thing. If you can do 50, you can do 100. If you do 100, do 150. It's not. It's just about boredom after a while. And after that, I just decided to do tricks and skills. So, you'll come without ruining it. Those tricks and skills come in very handy a wee while later, not just in the football, but out with it as well, because they can be useful. But yeah, there's lots of kind of, when you look back in those weird periods of your life, but try to keep it normal. And in the midst of it all, everyone's got all this famous thing going on. And I'm going, no, I want to be normal. My mates are normal people. Now, my mates, maybe John Peel, which it was, like, and others, but they were quite normal guys within the fame industry. That was the point of it. So for all they hear of players saying, "Oh, it's terrible now," and all the stress and the fame, and I'm going, "Yeah, very good." A, you get paid, particularly down south, you get paid staggering amounts of money, and B, you can choose to live that life, or you can choose to live a more normal life. It's all right. You can actually do both. It is possible.
Did you find it difficult? I'm looking at your background there with the album covers up, and notably the Belle and Sebastian one. Belle and Sebastian, one of my favourite bands. And actually, a wee bit of trivia for you is when we launched the podcast, we used a little bit of the middle part of The Boy with Arab Strap as our intro music, and YouTube kept not letting us publish because we never had permission. So I emailed Jeepster Records, I think it was, and asked for permission, and they kindly gave us it. But as they did that, we'd sort of in the interim switched over to one of my dad's songs, and my dad's a musician, and so we have that as our theme tune now. But we originally started off with Belle Sebastian because
you should give me a call and talk to Stuart.
Well, yeah, well, I didn't have your number at that point, or you. we actually went to see Bell and Sebastian at Usher Hall the other week there, which was a great gig.
I had tickets to go with my son, and we've got a mix up with times, and we were in Kefalonia, and we were in the wrong country.
Oh, I know.
Gutted to miss it.
Well, actually, it was something I wanted to bring up with you, because we went to see Bell and Sebastian Princess Street Gardens a good number of years back, and I saw you at that gig, I'm sure, and I think shortly after that I would have seen you potentially at the Chemical Brothers in Glasgow, and for a short while I thought you might have been stalking me. So just to clear it up, you weren't stalking me at that time, Pat? No.
No, I thought it was you who stopped me.
Fairness.
And you contacted me to come on the podcast. I mean, I rest my case, Your Honour.
Just while they look around your house.
But if you go, I remember I was driving. It was a few years ago, and there's the Scottish show, there's a Scottish BBC Scotland show that does it's 6 o'clock at night, and it does phone in radio things and it's questioning about a band or songs about summer. I can't remember what's the name of the guy who does it, and it'll come to me in a minute. Anyway, one night I was driving and I had a 4-hour drive, and it was phoning in people who are famous you've met at gigs, right? Every bloody second person phoned in. It was me. It was Pat. Oh no, I was seeing Pat of that one. Seen Pat of that one. It's everybody that phoned in was going, yeah, Pat with that one. So yeah, massive gig go. That's the real part. It's been a bit more difficult to go to gigs, particularly in Scotland. In the last number of years, obviously, COVID and post-COVID, and a wee bit as well with my work. But I work mostly in England now. Mm-hmm. So when I'm down in London, I get to see stuff down there. But it's a wee bit tougher to go and see gigs now, just purely because of the work. But that Bell and Sebastian one, I have to say, I'm sure it was Bell and Sebastian and Camera Obscura.
Yeah, Camera Obscura were the support, weren't they? Yeah.
And although I dearly love Bell and Sebastian, Camera Obscura would be higher in my list.
Really?
I love them to bits. I love Camera Obscura.
That was the first time I'd seen Camera Obscura live, and I was very impressed with them. One of our listeners, Raymond sorted me out with a ticket for Bell and Sebastian last time, and actually we only know each other because he heard our intro, and as a Bell and Sebastian fan gave our podcast a chance, because he thought, well, anybody that's playing Bell and Sebastian must be all right, so I'll listen to the podcast. And then a couple of years later we ended up going to a gig together. He asked if we would ask you what your favourite incongruous swearing in a song is, because his was Referee Giving Us Fuck All and Another Sunny Day. So do you have any favourite incongruous swearing?
I think you go a long way to beat that. But I have to tell you a wee story. I was doing quite often I do some radio shows where they ask me to pick some songs. And actually I recently picked The Boy with the Arab Strap for a programme I was doing for Radio Foil. And I was talking about the book, and I was talking about my music passions and football, etc. And I said, yeah, play The Boy with the Arab Strap. And they did. Now, if you remember, right at the end of The Boy with the Arab Strap, there's a line in it that says about a list of your 10 favourite wankers. Wanks.
Yeah.
He never turned it off. He obviously didn't know the track. And I'm thinking, they'll fade this now, because it's a talking bit and it fades right out. And I'm going, they'll fade it. They didn't fade it.
I think it's quiet enough to get away with it. But actually, we were talking before we started about doing a radio show on Leith FM, and I did the same thing. And as it was getting to the end of the song, I was like, oh, because I knew it was coming up. I actually have a friend called John Paul, who he does a Celtic State of Mind podcast. Yeah. Lovely guy.
I know him very well and have been on his podcast.
Who's this? So it's John Paul Mason. This is so. And he did a breakfast show on Leith FM, and he played Scooby Snacks, which is the fun-loving criminals. But that at the start of that samples Pulp Fiction, a very, very explicit Pulp Fiction. And I think he got maybe about 10 seconds into that intro before that song was abruptly pulled off air, and he played something else instead.
I actually did a recent show, and I gave him the songs. That's a wee while ago, about a year or two ago. And I gave him the list of songs, and I gave him The Boy with the Arab Strap, and said, "Oh no, can't play that." I said, "Do you know this song?" They went, "No, just the name, just the words, just
really
the name of the song."
Just ridiculous.
I suppose if you look into it, yeah. Anyway, enough of that. So yeah, the music was a big part of it, and obviously a big part of both of the books, but certainly the first book's got a lot of the music was going on at the time, and that kept on going and kept on going, has kept on going forever. Oddly enough, my son, he goes to more gigs than me now. He, apart from never missing a Hibs game ever, he travels everywhere, and he was obviously there last night at the game against Inter. He goes to so many. He probably goes to 3 a week. And he'll travel. We live in the borders, and he'll travel to Glasgow, travel to Edinburgh, travel to Newcastle. He'll go anywhere to go to see gigs, and he's an extraordinary kind of gig-going lad, and it's kind of kept in. I didn't even push him. This is the weird bit. I didn't even push him. He just made his own decision. That's what he loves doing.
He was taking it in through osmosis and just absorbed it from you, Pat.
Absolutely, loves it.
You mentioned I'm going to the Hibs games and stuff, and you're obviously like a well-known Hibs fan now, and you mentioned there earlier that you were originally a Celtic fan. So, would you mind telling us, like, how did that change?
Yeah, it's kind of mentioned in the first book, but given a little bit more detail in the second book, really. And it really is, in some terms, in the west of Scotland, I get all serious when I have to talk about this. But the kind of sectarianism that's going on in the west of Scotland just drives me nuts. And I give no time for it. I have no feeling for it. Never did have. My family were never brought up to be bigoted or anti anyone. And certainly I'm one of these people that I've had this weird thing where I don't gauge someone how much you love your club by how much you hate the enemy.
Mm-hmm.
I don't do that. I've never done that. You just love your own club. You follow your own club. And it didn't need all that stuff. And certainly my son, when he was growing up and beginning to get interested in football, I just thought, I can't put you through that, mate. Can't do it. And he couldn't have coped with it. So it was, I had to look around and think, well, okay, can't keep on. And then I get a lot of Celtic fans. So a certain group of Celtic fans who call me a turncoat and I'm a liar and all that sort of stuff. And I'm thinking, actually, no, I had a club, you took it away from me. So I had to go and look around. And didn't take me long because I had a second club. Then the first day going, which is it's a story I've told once or two. It's absolutely true. We went along. So a game against Dundee United, end of season, and took Simon, my son, along. He was quite young at the time. He was beginning to cope better with football games. At that time, he couldn't really cope, come to see me when he was younger. And we sat down, and I just sat down with Ray and all that. I didn't know anyone around me. By the end of the game, I had a bunch of mates. And by the end of the game, the discussions were all about fire engines and as in the band and Joseph Kay and these bands that we kind of liked, and then new bands that were coming out, and some of the guys that were in bands themselves. And it was, I was like, I'm home here. And the bit that one of the bits that really got me was the kind of feeling around the place, because it was a great win. We won, I think it was 3-2. But you come from behind and all that. So late winner, all the stuff you need, right? It was great. But it was the buzz of, I was looking around thinking, you people want good football. You don't just want to win. You're kind of demanding style here. You're demanding something good. And it's so sort of it mirrored my kind of feelings. And I just felt fabulously, brilliantly at home immediately. And it's hard to explain to people what it is. I go to a lot of games. That was my job.
Yeah.
Go to football games. And you like some places. And I mean, I happen to love Bilbao, Atletico Bilbao. I've been there and I love the place. I felt at home. But it's hard to explain why. It just feels like your place. And I sat there thinking, I'm in Glasgow. I've really gone native here because I feel so home. And we live in the East Coast anyway. We have done for 25 years now, 30 years now. My wife and I, my son and my daughter. But it just felt absolutely at home. And it's hard. So you can't explain it, but I kind of always loved the style, right? And oldest joke in the world, and I didn't need to buy a new scarf. Bad joke, right? So, but the other thing that really got to me, I mean, my own family gave me dogs abuse for it because they're all still Celtic fans, right? And they're kind of beginning to understand it now or accept it now. But we did a family tree recently. And my brother, an older brother, Tommy, did it. And he went through the family tree. Of course, we come from Kildare, Naas, near Ireland, a couple of generations back. And because I've got the Irish passport and everything. And turns out, after a bit of searching, we didn't land in Glasgow. We landed in Leith.
Wow.
We actually, and the first group of my family that came over stayed in Leith. They didn't move. They stayed there for a generation. So maybe it's in there somewhere in the bones. Maybe it's actually...
So your brothers and sisters are wrong then.
They're the
not...
turncoats.
And it's the weirdest thing because I get a lot of people going, "Oh, what history have you got with Hibs?" And I'm going, "Oh no, I haven't. I always loved them as a team, etc." And then discovered this just in the last few months that it's there. It's actually there, the history. So anyway, so it's something that again, if anyone reads the current book, particularly which is Football and How to Survive It, it's explained in depth. And then there's some moment I was talking recently. I did a bookshop thing in Edinburgh, and we went up to it's Toppings, the one at the corner, the one at the corner, just off at the top of Leith Wall. Anyway, and then there's a church or a chapel just up the road. We did it in there, and it was brilliant. And a number of people came, but it was good. I mean, there was a couple of 250 people come, and I did the talk from, and it's really weird because you have to kind of swear sometimes when you explain it, and you're sitting there in an altar. It's bloody weird, especially with the background I've got, kind of thing. And I was able to write about the people and what Hibs meant to me and what they've meant to my son and how important it's been for the last quarter century of my life. And it was amazing that right in front of me was 4 or 5 of the lads that I met that first day were sitting there.
Oh wow!
We stayed mates all this time, and they came along. And it's honestly the touching, amazing, memorable things, and the help that they've given my family, but very much specific my son Simon. Hibernian Football Club's been a massive part of his life and an important part of his life, and mine too. But I can't thank the club, supporters particularly, but players and staff, and the actual concept of Hibernian, how much they made his life better. And it's brilliant to be able to say that. It's one of the great things when you're right. You're able to say things that, blokes don't say to each other, kind of thing, And I was able to say about, I wrote in the first book how much I felt about Craig Brown, what I thought about him. Well, you wouldn't say it to somebody's face, but I gave him the book and they could read it. And he's gone now. And I'm thinking, yeah, but I told you, mate. And I'm so happy I told you. I feel the same about Hibernian.
You mentioned the sectarianism story there. It's quite a difficult thing to talk about in Scotland, I think, Pat. We raise the subject on the podcast, and typically, and I'll say this, typically it's when Rangers have been at Easter Road, because it is at its most obvious and it is at its most rampant when they're at Easter Road. If I even think back to the 2016 Scottish Cup final, and the cheer up Alan Stubbs song that they were singing, which had a sectarian element to it.
I was with Stubbsy last week, man.
And it's so right, but people don't talk about it. It's like swept under the carpet. But it's a great thing, and it's kind of why I wanted to just dwell on it for a second, because it's difficult. I had mentioned it. I do a little bit of writing on a Monday for the BBC, just like they do like a fan column, and I did that, and had put a little bit in about the noise for the Rangers fans, and it got taken out. And just it wasn't raised in our in the match report, so we're not going to include it here. And just that, like this sort of blind eye that everybody turns to it, which I think is absurd that would happen.
Yeah, it's kind of weird, because I suppose in the west of Scotland, particularly the press, because it's always been there. It's just always been there. And if you write the same thing every single week, people go, yeah, very good. And you get bored with it. And I get why they don't do it. I often get people saying, I heard sectarian singing. And it'd be Rangers fans saying Celtic will do it. Celtic fans saying Rangers will do it. Oh, well,
what about
right.
it?
Right. Yeah. And they say, why did you not talk about that? Well, this is the way it works. We've got cams on, right? We don't hear it. We have microphones. We hear our voices. We've got a mic that's specifically angled at the pitch. You hear the pitch. So a lot of time you won't hear these songs. I'll be honest with you, they've changed so much. I don't know them.
Yeah.
I'm not interested in them at all. But the fact that I speak up about it, and certainly when I spoke up about it in a Scottish Cup final, it's a long story which I won't bore everyone with, but somebody in my ear said they're singing sectarian songs out there, Celtic supporters. And Rob McLean, I think it was at the time, comes to me after a game, and says, "Well, what do you think about the Celtic fans singing sectarian songs?" Well, I'm not going to go, "Oh, they're great, I love them sectarian songs," kind of shit, because I don't, A, but B, so I'll say what I say about it. Now, I've got this from somebody very high up in the BBC. I can't hear it. A, we were in a booth at the time, and the headphones, you can't hear it. So, but you take it and trust. Anyway, it turns out some people complained and said, well, they weren't sectarian, there was something else. And they're all,
political is the usual when they go down there.
It's usually, it's like, it's the old, I don't, anyway.
Yeah.
Anyways, well, they had a judicial review of it because so many people complained about me saying I didn't like sectarian singing at football games. And so that I would be sacked from the BBC. And
it's funny, but it's the wrong way around, eh? It's the wrong way around. But if you complain about it,
I was dying to talk about it.
I know, but it's the same. But it's the same with Graham Spears is the other one that I speak about it, and he just gets hammered. Like anything he posts on Twitter, he gets just goaded constantly.
I get it from both sides.
Mm-hmm.
Fortunately, I don't give a shit, which is really good. Because it's only a small percent, and a notable but small percentage of the people that go to these games do that. They're loud, so you hear them, right? And you do hear the loud one. The vast majority are great, and they're not like that. You have to keep an eye on that. So I had 1,000 complaints about it, and they had this judicial review, which found me. I think in Scotland you have 3. You have guilty, not guilty, and
not proven.
There should be a 4th one which says unbelievably not guilty, which is what the judge found me. It was really funny. So it's completely, massively, gigantically in my side. But I didn't like to crow on about it. I just want to say, look, some people just want to go and watch a game of football, and we don't actually want to hear some of this stuff just now. If you want to give your own beliefs and thoughts and have your place and do it, and if that place and you want to do it at a football club and that is the football club's ethos and the football club agree with you, then you carry on. I'll go somewhere else, right? So no big deal.
That's what you've done.
Yeah. What I did, right? But that makes me a kind of hate figure with Sam. But I'll be honest with you, I have to underline it. I really have to underline it. Celtic fans and Rangers fans, generally they've been all right. They've been brilliant to me. I go to games. I'm going to the Celtic Rangers game that's coming up. For the BBC Radio 5 Live. I've had one bad word in 25 years. One. And it was funny. Can I tell you? It's a cracker.
Go for it.
This guy was at Celtic Park, and as I was walking in, and he was, hey, Nevin. Yes, can I help? You're just here for the money. And I went, aye. No, you're just here for the money. You're just here for the money. Yeah, it's my job. You go do a job and you work and you get money, you pay it. Yes, that's why I'm here. Yes. You're just here for the money. Yes. And his mate's going, oh, he went,
that's it. No logic,
and everyone around just beginning to laugh at this point. And the point is that the vast majority of people around were just going, ooh, that's a bit cringy. And that's the way it is. And we have to remember the vast majority of people, what you hear on Twitter and what you hear on social media, it's not a reflection. It's really not good. Kids or anyone listening out there, see if there's a lot of people pelling on you. That's not what everybody thinks and feels generally. It sometimes can be. It probably is a bit Nigel Farage. But, other people, generally you're just getting a bunch that are quite extreme. Most people, they're all right, pretty cool, no matter who they support.
Isn't it, you kind of mentioned about getting abuse, and it was one of the things that jumped out for your book as well, was you seem to take this all in kind of quite good humour as well, like water off a duck's back, and are quite happy to engage with, have a bit of banter back and forth.
Even the Hearts fans.
Was that one that stuck out, and the boy that shouted about you? I can't remember the exact phrase, but like sort of like you question your literary skills.
To be honest, it's a very long story, that which I've never really went into. I'll give you a wee bit of it just now, because very quickly. So I'm playing for Commando at this point against Hearts, and it was the Wheatfield stand. I was running up the line. Hey, Nevin, you're shite. Ignored him. Hey, Nevin, you're too old. Ignore them. Next time, hey Nevin, you've got a big nose and you're just a wee Fenian, whatever. And I went, blanket, ignored it. Next time I ran up, I said, hey Nevin, your book's shite. And I went, no, steady on. That's too far. I've come up next time and I shouted at him, hey, you must have bought it then, eh? And he was like really angry. Next time I come up, he goes, no, I got it in the library. It was a great line. I was playing Celtic a wee while after it, and the guy shouted to the side, hey Nevin, your book lacks literary merit.
I really cut you to the bone there.
Then the thing is, you gotta laugh. No, but the brown thing about the Hearts one's even better. I mean, a lot of Hearts fans know and some Hibs fans know. One time my son had done something online and I had to come online and I had to go on the kickback.
I remember this, yeah.
Yeah, so they are, yeah. We used to be on kickback trolling them a lot at that point.
We did, at that point, yeah, a long time ago.
And I've had to jump on and I'm thinking, I'm going to get dogs abuse here. And they were brilliant. They were just fabulous. They got us out of hole. They were fully understanding of it. Not one of them went to one newspaper about, the fact that my son had said this. So it was amazing. So it's just fans are fans. They all love their team and the rest of it. But there's another one which is a cracker, which is and you know what happened? I don't know if you know I'll give you the whole end of the story was I said thanks to the Hearts fans for being understanding with my son, and I made the mistake of saying the phrase, "If there's anything I can do for you, let me know." Stupid.
Yeah.
So they made me do a 5-1. So match of the day. So that was kind of funny. But the corollary to that, which not everybody knows, is that for the next year and a half, the Autistic Society were getting payments of £5.10 or £51 and £19.02 being paid by Hearts fans to say, thanks for doing that, it was really funny. And so everybody benefited.
Yeah.
But I've had this, all these things all the time with fans are fans. Fans love their club, and in the end, if you, apart from real nutters, in the moment of nutcaseness, apart from that, the vast generalisation is that fans are brilliant to deal with. And, unless you're an arse yourself as a player, fans are generally great to deal with.
We will be cutting out the bit about giving credit to Hearts fans. So
that'll get edited out. That's not making it anywhere. But the thing is, Pat, I think it's because you come across very genuine, very real. I think what you see is what you get with you, right? That's certainly how you come across, right? And I think going on, because I absolutely remember that. I remember the post on Kickback, and you didn't think it at the time. But good on you for doing it. It took some balls to do it as well, because you put yourself right in the firing line. But it absolutely got the right outcome. Everybody, I think, came out well from that exchange.
Can I take away some of my bravery here just for a second, right? I wasn't going to do it. My missus says you've got to do it.
Well, good on your missus then.
That's what the bravery was. You're doing that.
That's how it works. So that's just like, I'm the same.
She was
ask for a pay rise. Ask for a pay rise. Oh.
She was absolutely. I mean, just to be honest, I'm not clever enough to lie about things. I am just straight up and honest about it. And if you have to take some sort of hit about it, one of the great things that what has made it easier for me, I've been really clever, never wanted to be in the limelight. So what are my jobs? Played football, then worked in the media, on telly and radio. Good plan, Patrick. But the fact that I've never taken that person that people say very seriously, I think I'm pretty ridiculous. I can laugh at me. So I'll be laughing at me before any of you are. Don't worry about that. So I think when a lot of people do, and I understand that they want to feel serious about themselves and they want to be, respected. And I just find myself a bit ridiculous. So if anyone is saying something about me, it's, the libelous ones, there's one or two been libelous in the past that I've just been able to prove. But you just thought, why am I arguing with a lunatic?
Yeah.
And so you don't, and I don't argue with them. I just think fair enough, you want to write that crap. Generally, let's be honest, but the vast majority of stuff is actually okay.
Now, we've used that before. Don't argue with an idiot because they'll just how's it go, Matthew? Don't argue with an idiot because
they'll wear you down and beat you with experience.
There's loads of them. don't fight with a lunatic, because eventually from the outside nobody knows who the lunatic is, because you're fighting.
Yeah.
Both of you are fighting. And my dad when I was very, very, very young, he's a really intelligent man. If you read the first book, you'll know there's lovely stories about how I feel about my dad. And he just said, never ever argue with a zealot. You're wasting your time. It's just complete waste of time. Don't do it. Make your own points to reasonable people, and people that are open-minded. Arguing with a zealot is pointless. So always be strong in your own opinions, but don't argue with them. So that's kind of kept that on board through the years, and it's certainly in the worst parts of social media. I've kept that on board, but I spend all my time, when I watch other people I know who are maybe getting a bit of stick online or wherever, just saying to them, look, I've been there in extraordinary situations where, even back in my time at Motherwell, where famously I was trying to not defend, but when Andy Gorham had been caught with a red hand of Ulster behind him, and there was this big story in the front and back pages, and there was supposedly an IRA marksman going to come to the next game, which happened to be against Celtic, obviously, and take him out. And that was front back pages for a long time in Scotland at the time. And I'm his boss, and I was in the middle of it. And honestly, you can see when you've got all that crashing down on you, it's hard to explain what it's like. But that's what a social media pylon must feel like to kids, because it's their whole world. And I just try to explain to them, it doesn't matter how bad it feels, it goes away. It really doesn't.
You'd have fancied Gorham to save that anyway. Like it's a stupid thing. It's like sending bullets through the post, which I always thought was a ridiculous way to try to shoot somebody. But
my favourite one about goalie when I was doing that. I was in a meeting, I was saying, look, you got to play. He's probably not going to be a sniper there. He went, probably. I went, probably. Yeah. I said, look, I'm going to be on the pitch at the same time. They went, yeah, but you're running a bit. I'm standing. I was going like, yeah. I think you get one of those number one in his back there, a big round circle around it. Were you?
That was when you were at Mother. That was when you were at Motherwell.
Yeah,
was
that chief executive at Motherwell.
Chief exec? Were you a player, chief exec? Is that right?
I was for 2 years. Yeah.
That's mad, eh? Like to think, like imagine Ben Kessel getting on the pitch on Saturday.
Well, I know Matty's reading the book just now. The second book. Well, the second half of the second book deals with that period of time, and every single person that's read it gets back in touch and goes, "You're joking. That did not happen." And to explain what it's really like inside a football club. Now, it happened to be Motherwell, but it's like that in lots and lots of football clubs, and people are absolutely staggered at some of the stuff that actually happened. And it was brilliant to get it out there, because once I got it past the legal department, to get the stories that there was only one chapter that I kind of dropped, which will appear somewhere else someday. Which was what it's like inside the SFA, because I was brought into their committees, and again as a complete outsider, I don't give a shit, right? So the stories are there are great, but certainly one of my favourite ones was I was taking the free kicks about 1 o'clock, after lunch. Everyone bugs off home. I'll take half an hour outside and just go outside and do some skill stuff, just get my head straight, then go in and do about 5-6 hours worth of chief exec stuff. And I'm putting these free kicks in, and I'm thinking, bloody easy to score at that end, but can I score at that end over the wall? Anyway, I walked it out. One of their 16-yard lines, i.e. not 18-yard line. We had a 16-yard line. And I'm like, how long's that been there for? It could have been there for 10 years. I'd only been there for 10 months. It could be there for 10 years. And I'm like, we're in the shed. And there's loads of things that would happen. You would never, I mean, and then it happened again, because the goals turned out to be the wrong size. We'd been playing with goals of the wrong size. And I think, how can this happen at a professional football club? But honestly, and it's just continues, but also the stresses and strains of being an executive. are extraordinary. And
Mm-hmm.
often people say to you, "Oh yeah, football's a really stressful thing at the top level." Well, I've done football playing and being a chief executive. It isn't even close. The executive role is a nightmare. It's hell on earth. It's a million times harder than being a professional footballer at any level, and I've done it at a lot of levels.
If we take you on, Pat, just as we're kind of closing up the podcast, take you on to more recent times at Hibs in the game last night. So you did you say you were at the game?
No, I had
you watch it?
Stuffed it down here, but I watched it at home.
What did you think? Did it go as you expected?
Yeah, completely as expected. I know there was a lot of anger after the first game. I mean, a hell of a lot of anger after the first game. I understood it. Yeah, but the manager was, when he was saying, you know, the famous calm down, right? Which annoyed everybody. And I'm going, yeah, we're all right, though. You'll hammer them. It'll be okay. And if you played in European football before, you know what it's like. You can go to these wee places and they fight in the battle, they chase and they close down, and you're not quite up to speed yet and all that sort of stuff. Get them back in your own place in a big pitch and a good surface and the right conditions. You battle 11 daylights out of them. Now, to be fair, I was quite impressed with them. They came out at a good pitch, didn't they? They really battled into it. I mean, they really great. But of course, which was I'm sure is exactly what we wanted. We absolutely wanted that, because if they come out, they'll leave gaps. Yeah. And by the way, we know you're going to get knackered. You know it. It's okay. It's going to happen. Had they sat in and did a 5-4-1 or something like that and just stuck there, that's tough. And even a poor team. There was a famous game I played in once where it was 0-0, and I was on the bench, and it was Scotland playing against San Marino in San Marino. And after an hour, it was 0-0. And famously, Ian Archer, who's a journalist, I looked at my watch and realised that after an hour, we were drawing 0-0 with the top of a mountain, which is a great line, right? But it's a bit like that when you're there. You need to break them first. You need to break them down. And then when you break them, you're all right. They should come out and then you're done. You know, and it's kind of hard sometimes because they're not coming out and you're not ready, and, you know, circumstances and everything's against you. I have to say, I had not one concern for a minute that we would be in any danger in this tie. And I thought we played at a really high tempo to start as well. I mean, they went at us, didn't they? And it closed down. I mean, the amount of fouls and tackles and bashes, and they were up for it. But we're also a bit naive with it as well. And certainly when the first goal went in early, you just think, yeah, we're all right. Okay. I have to say, I wasn't even slightly worried about it. And a couple of good goals, I must have been. It wasn't bad, was it?
Yeah. I think Juan's goal, the last goal was the pick of the bunch for me.
It was, the finish was, but see, he's a wide right player, somebody who's played in that position many times, right? So he gets the ball just about halfway line, doesn't he? And he goes on, and everyone goes, and they go near him, and it's like they're towing a caravan trying to get near him. I mean, they really are. Hello, Annabelle's in the back there. They're towing a caravan. You can't get near him, so it's actually, and then nobody actually gets close to him. And then the keeper lies down. Yeah. But it's a good finish. It's a great finish. I mean, he wellied it. He absolutely welled it. It's a great finish.
I thought it could have been double figures at one point. You know, it was early enough in the game when they got the sixth. I thought we could get 10 here.
Yeah, but made the changes. Made a lot of changes. Annabelle, enjoying the Hibs. Dan Bell's already had a mention. She wants an appearance as well.
So it's usually the background noise at my end with the podcast when we're there. Don't worry about it.
Oh, we don't hide it.
Quite right, and nor should you. What have you made of Hibs over sort of Lee Johnson's time in charge?
It's just, there's been difficult times in amongst it. I just find it's an unusual time for the club, ownership stuff, etc. We know. There's been times you thought, well, I wouldn't have done that. Yeah, absolutely wouldn't have done that. But I don't know. I'm actually fairly positive about this season coming up. What is the expectations? You know, it's the usual stuff. Can we get above them across the city? That would be really nice. You know, that would be a fantastic thing. It's going to be hard to stay with Celtic Rangers, obviously. You can't. I mean, what they've got financially and what they're adding to, etc. You just can't stay with it, and we need to sell some of our best players, and that's you got a goal scorer we need to sell. It's hard, but
That's it. We seem to be spending a bit of money now. Maybe speculate to accumulate.
It's one of my least favourite phrases in football.
I bet.
Speculate to accumulate usually means take a chance.
But that's people have been saying it for years. The Hibs, we were what was it? Spend £1 less than we bring in, or whatever was the mantra. Is that the right way around?
It was, yeah.
And whereas now we're spending, well, apparently 700 grand on a striker that nobody had heard of till.
As long as the money's there. As long as the money's there. As you say, I've been at Motherwell. I've been at other clubs when they speculate to accumulate. That's fine as long as it goes well. But you remember, see, if everyone speculates to accumulate, somebody goes down, and they're knackered. They are absolutely knackered. So I think intelligently within budget is definitely the way to go, because we wouldn't let a situation where we found ourselves in a particularly bad time financially, and then had to do, the worst, really cut it to the bone.
Yeah.
So that I'm kind of excited to some degree and hopeful for next season, but I think this is a good season to look at the manager. Before that, I think you're building. I honestly think it takes about 2 years to build a team. Everybody wants it tomorrow or yesterday or in 3 weeks' time, where in actual fact, it takes a year, minimum 2 years to get your. I mean, I watch it down south a lot. I mean, I watched the guy Graham Potter at Chelsea, because I was covering Chelsea for a lot of the time, and gave him 7 months.
I never got a chance, really, did he?
I mean,
he was never getting a chance though. That was when he got the job. It was like you thought he's just passing through like that. That's what it was. The media hype around. Where was it? He came from Brighton or something.
Brighton.
Yeah, Brighton. But look at Brighton.
Yeah.
So if you're going to give somebody a job and say, right, here's the plan, you need to give them time to do it. So I was very much being a chief executive myself in Motherwell. I know, right? It's okay. It's going to be tough first season. It's going to be hard. You need to make a lot of changes. A lot of the people you've got there, you actually probably don't want there. They don't suit your style. They're not the people you want. And I'll judge you by the second season. I remember saying that to our manager, who I brought in at the time, just said, right, give you first year, survive. Second year, show us what you've done, and then build it from there. And we did, in the second year we did it. Then we were a point off third at the end of the season, and then finances played a problem with that, played a part with that. But I do think fans understandably have to desperately want everything to happen right away. The people who run the club have to do it in the right time, have patience sometimes. Even when there's anger all around you, you have to have patience sometimes, and be brave sometimes to stand up and say, no, I gave this guy the job because I believed in him. So I'm kind of hoping this will be a season where it looks good.
Sure. Well, that's the hope. I think Hibs have maybe done it because we went through that many managers in about a period of 6 months. A lot of fans are now on we just need to stick this time because we can't just keep doing it. So there's definitely been a turn there, and I'm not saying it's all fans, because we've got guys that listen here and that wanted them out for almost day one and still do look for reasons why to be negative about it. But
you're every right to feel that.
Yeah, of course. But the feels like there's a majority now going, we can't go Jack Ross, Sean Maloney, David Gray in between. Like we need to just actually stick with somebody and let them try and see it through.
I'm still staggered to this day, the Jack Ross stuff. I know he said tough times elsewhere, but I just thought, how much more can we do? I thought he was doing great. So I found that difficult. So, eventually, there's usually complicated reasons why managers leave. And it's not only just, it's usually the most important thing is not winning enough games and not coming up to the standards you want. But, if you keep on changing the person that's managing the club and do it too quickly, you're the one that's making the mistakes, not them. It's you.
100%.
You have to put your hand up and go, I blew that, and keep on saying, I blew that, and maybe I shouldn't be making the decision if I'm having to change this so quickly, because I'm not a good decision maker in this, or my group is not a good decision maker in that. But another thing is, a lot of managers are good, are okay. It's just the circumstances they land in. So, if you land in circumstances where teams getting a little bit old, or, there's no money in the club at that point in time, you look back in 20 years and you think, well, he was good. I liked him. We won a cup there, or we got to a final there. But sometimes you forget, actually, we were skint then. He done a great job and he didn't. But the manager stuff is one big part of it. And I hope he does well. I mean, we never quite got the manager in. I tried to get it at Hibs, and I'm sure many Hibs fans already know about this. I tried to get a manager in and spoke to a few people about it, and he was willing to come a few years back, 3 or 4, 5 years back, 4 years back, whatever. And,
I don't know this story, Pat. Who are you talking about?
Well, I mean, we were changing managers, and I was doing some work in at the club, just to help the community stuff a couple of times. And I said, look, I've got something I could get for you. Just talk to him anyway. And I told him the name, and they went, "Oh, right, we'll do that." So I got in touch with him, and he said, "Yeah, I'd be interested. I'm not in the game at the moment. I'll come back into it." Anyway, they never talked to him, never got in touch with him. And Stevie Clark's done quite well since then.
What the hell?
He was rumoured. He was rumoured at one point. He was almost going to sign. Who was that?
I pushed and pushed and pushed and pushed, and they never. Clarky said they never got in touch, and I've pushed it about the press as well. That would be a good idea. And then he said he phoned me up now. Well, Kilmarnock are interested, and I went, "Wow, it's a great wee club. I was there for a year. It was brilliant fun." So he took Kilmarnock, and his time at Kilmarnock was astonishing. Absolutely. Yeah. So if it's no for you, no goodbye you, but certainly that would have been one that I'd have. But I've been hanging with loads of. It's really weird with loads of ex-Hibs managers at the moment. I was out with Bobby Williamson last week.
I remember him. Man. Were you at the cinema?
Oh, honestly, he's funny guy. He was my manager at Kilmarnock when I was there. Funny guy. He's now in Uganda.
Yeah.
He comes out back every now and again. And it is amazing when you talk to these, former Hibernian managers, and you think how important it was to you. And it's amazing. It sticks with them. It absolutely did stick with them. There's something about it. Who else did I meet? I was just driving me mad here. I met somebody else and I can't remember who it was.
You said Alan Stubbs earlier, didn't you?
Pardon?
You said Alan Stubbs earlier.
I met Stubbs. Yeah. I was. I did a talk down at Everton because Stubbs is obviously big down in Everton, and I kind of it wasn't. I'm trying to think how to put this right. I don't think it sounded as confident as I thought it was going to be on the night. So I ended up doing a lot of the chat, but he is just the loveliest guy. And certainly I'd spend a lot more time with him, and I just wish he was in the game a little bit more just now, but he spends all his time slotting the Everton board at the moment, so I don't think he'll get a job there.
Listen, Pat, we're out of time, and I just want to say, thanks very much for taking time out your Friday to sit down with us and talk. It's been a brilliant episode. I absolutely loved it. Wish you all the best success with the book, and hopefully there's maybe a fourth book to follow.
Yeah, there's another one. The first, I've written 3 before. One was one years and years ago about psychology in sport. The most recent memoir one was the first one, The Accident Football. The one that came out 2 weeks ago, or 3-4 weeks ago, was Football and How to Survive It. The next one's going to be really weird. It's going to be a different style altogether. And it's the one that I always wanted to write. And it was about the travels of being in the game, particularly in the media, that I travelled afterwards, because weird things happened, and weird things that real fans would love to hear about on those travels. So, but I'll leave that a while yet. This one's just out, so
yeah.
I have to give people a wee bit of a break and a chance to read the first 2.
Well, best of luck with it anyway, and thanks again, and thanks everybody for tuning in, and we will see you next time. Well, they trailed me down when I broke free. I drank all the whiskey in Tennessee.